Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Charles Culp. Thank you so much for attending this de-escalation training put on by the city of Bloomington. I am the Ambassador Program Manager for the Community and Family Resource Department, and we operate within City Hall, and most of the work we do is done with myself and two other team members, and we work downtown promoting safety, local events, and businesses. So we work with a lot of college kids, business owners, and the unhoused, and I'm here to share some techniques, tips, skill sets that we have learned from other trainings or learned from our own experiences downtown in hopes that you can take knowledge, take note of this, and embody this in whatever work you're doing to help de-escalate situations. If you're an outreach worker, if you're working at a bar, whatever, there are situations that come up and sometimes they need some extra help. So I want to thank Kelly for being able to set up all the tech stuff over here, and Kelly's over there from IT. Thank you, Kelly. 100%, I could not have done any of this without Kelly. So thank you so much. And thank you for the city of Bloomington for giving me the opportunity to put this on. It is an honor and a privilege. So I hope we learned something, and I hope we have some fun today. Information from this training came from a lot of different resources. Very quickly, the Bloomington Police Department, DROs helped us out. Purdue University had a de-escalation training that we attended via Zoom. And the Public Agency Training Council put one on up in Muncie that I attended. Centerstone has done several trainings here that have brought a lot of information to a lot of different people, and it ended up in some of our slides. And then there was a de-escalation trainer, Scott Tillema, that was actually here a couple months ago, and he was able to do some more de-escalation. But the other piece of this is our experience as after-hours ambassadors. That's what shaped this training, both our successes and our failures, because everybody knows failure is a great teacher. It helped us fine-tune what works and what doesn't work. Very wise information from a puppet. In this training, we're going to go over cultivating awareness in a crisis, application of methods, additional tools, and then we're going to go over just resources that exist within the community that can help us be on a de-escalated situation. If something turns into an emergency, sometimes we're going to have to call other people. And there are people that are, more apt to dealing with situations involving violence and things like that, and we'll go over that as we kind of move on. We got some people coming in. Find a seat, no worries. Welcome. These as well. Yeah, no problem. So the After Hours Ambassador team, we operate in the evenings, mostly 3 p.m. to 11, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We work downtown promoting safety, local events and businesses. And in those hours, in those heavy populated areas, we like to say it is never dull. So there is always something going on. We're always encountering new friends, new people, new attitudes. And we do our best to try to help people when we can, get them the resources they're looking for, and de-escalate any situations as they come up. The goal of this training is to educate participants on how to safely enter an escalating situation, build rapport with a person so that they may calmly be led to a safe and positive outcome. And what are we here to learn? Verbal de-escalation tactics. So we're not doing anything physical. This is all kind of just talking through situations that could be difficult. Non-physical skills used to assist a person in crisis from escalating into an injury or confrontation. So what is a crisis? A crisis is unstable. It's a crucial turning point. It's extremely difficult. It's dangerous. And it requires immediate action to prevent a negative outcome. When we're doing any sort of de-escalation, safety is always our top priority. We cannot de-escalate if the situation is unsafe. So if you ever feel a situation is unsafe, do not hesitate to call 911. Don't take this training and think you can go into situations that are unsafe and change the outcome. Let the experts handle it. Dial 911. I'm going to say that several times during this. So a crisis can turn into an emergency if there is no de-escalation-based solution. And an emergency cannot be de-escalated, and that requires immediate attention from 911. So we can't go backwards. Once certain things have occurred and safety is breached in a situation, we cannot de-escalate out of that. We must call the proper authorities to come deal with the situation. Safety of yourself and others is the main goal. And once the emergency occurs, the proper emergency response team needs to be contacted to keep people safe. That is our goal today. So the techniques you will learn in this training will also help build rapport and make connections regardless of if a person is escalated in a crisis or not. And I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to ask questions at the end of every part of this. So there's 4 parts. We'll have time for 3 rounds of questions. There's an order of operations in regards to de-escalation. We want to make sure first and foremost that the environment is safe. If the environment is not safe, we are unable to proceed from there. If it is safe, then we can de-escalate. And within the realm of de-escalation, we can influence whoever it is that is in the crisis. And hopefully we can influence them to calm down, to find resources, to move on, whatever it is that they need, depending on the situation. So once the environment has been established as safe, we can move on to the other 2 steps, hopefully leading somebody out of the crisis. So right now, I'd like for you to think about a time in your life when you observed or were involved in an argument or a debate that you felt got a bit too escalated. This could be work-related, it could be in your home life, it could be if you're a parent with your kids, because I negotiate with terrorists every day. I have 2 children. And I want you to think about this, where it happened, and I want you to think, how were you involved in this incident? What did it look like? Would you consider it a crisis? What do you wish you would have done differently? So keep those thoughts in your mind. Part 1. Once again, remember, call the people that can handle the situation if you feel it is unsafe or violence is occurring. Do not begin or continue to de-escalate a situation you feel is unsafe. Simply walk away and make the phone call. So how do we determine if a crisis situation is safe enough for our involvement? How do we make that assessment? We can use something called the OODA loop. And the 4 stages of the OODA system are observe, orient, decide, and act. And this is a process that can keep us safe, help us assess a situation, and then know what the next step is beyond that. So the first part, we're trying to gather real-time information. We're trying to see what's being laid out, what's happening. The second part, we want to analyze this information. What does this look like? What's going on with this individual? Is this safe? Is this not safe? Then we want to formulate a plan, and then we want to act, and we want to execute some sort of a conversation which generates new information that helps us along the way. And the good thing about this, obviously, it goes in a circle. So if we miss a step, or if we're not getting the outcome we don't want, if we're getting the outcome we don't want, we can restart. We can go right back to the start and try it all over again until we can get to a place where people are calming down and we're able to help in the way that we want to. This comes from the United States Air Force, Colonel John Boyd. He used it to navigate high-stakes, rapidly changing environments in crisis. And this is a technique that the law enforcement use, the military uses, and it's to help with quick, rapid decision-making. The OODA system, it's cyclical in nature, and changes can always be made as more information is revealed. You can always abandon your progress and start over if you're not getting the outcomes that you're looking for. So we must make the right moves to keep ourselves and others safe. When we assess a crisis situation, we have to determine if the situation is safe for us. We can do this by asking ourselves specific questions related to the OODA loop. How can I position myself to anticipate any harm? How can I make the person I am talking to feel safe as I approach them? And be aware of the physical space immediately surrounding someone. You don't want to invade or encroach on someone's personal space, and that could create more anxiety, and that could escalate the situation beyond what it already is. So looking at this, we can learn what our intimate, personal, and social space is. And this is all due to our awareness of where we are and how we're lining up with other people that we're talking to. Intimate's about 1.5 feet. Personal is usually around 4 feet, and then social is 9 feet, depends if it's during COVID or not. Know the appropriate distance. Move to where you are comfortable and safe, and know your way out of a situation. So you can think of it kind of as in theater-style blocking. A lot of times in a play, everybody's kind of lined up, right? They're not like actually facing each other and things like that, but they line up in a way that allows for communication. And we're hoping to do the same thing, because not only is communication kind of going in front of the people, but it also gives us an opportunity to kind of back away if we need to. If that situation starts getting escalated and it starts feeling unsafe, then you can easily fade out, versus if you're standing, face to face with somebody, that could be a different situation. It's precise staging movements, positioning of actors, directed during rehearsals. It supports communication and visual composition. It involves facing the audience, planning entrances and exits, and different stage positions. So you want to make sure that you're in a place where you feel safe, and if safety changes, if it becomes dangerous, you can get out of there, or you're able to kind of protect yourself. So distance yourself more than a leg's length away, on an angle and off to the side of the other person, to promote this sort of safety. Stay far enough away that the other person cannot hit, kick, or grab us. And be aware of proper intimate, personal, and social spacing as you do this. So think about that. So in a de-escalation, there are a lot of first impressions. So as you enter a crisis, there's going to be a lot of information going back and forth, especially with the first stage of that OODA loop. First impressions are important in regards to de-escalating, because trust needs to be built quickly. And you can decide if somebody is a friend, an enemy, someone you want to have dinner with, or a person that you just feel absolutely indifferent about. So I put this picture of these ladies here because I assume they're friends, but then I noticed one of them has the earplug in, so she's not even listening. When conversing with an individual in crisis, be aware. Learn to observe and assess different warning signs using the OODA loop. Make sure you're calm. Do not get agitated. If you end up raising your voice or get angry, you've already kind of lost the battle. And that's a hard place to get back from, because now you're the one that needs to be de-escalated. Your attitude will influence their attitude. So show interest and support to the individual in crisis. Be direct, talk openly, but don't be judgmental. Be non-judgmental. And don't debate if feelings or actions are good or bad. This is not the place to determine what's going on. We're trying to get a person to feel safe so that they can calm down. So upon first impressions in a crisis situation, we should seek to immediately recognize if there's the emotion of anger, anxiety, or sadness within ourselves or within others as this is going on. We want to be seen as a safe person when we're approaching a situation we want to de-escalate. We want to be someone who is kind, generous, and knowledgeable. And that way we'll be able to connect and thus influence the individual out of the crisis. We want to be open to the conversation using the following gestures, but we do not want to overuse these. So we need to be mindful. Things such as smiling, proper eye contact, eyebrow movement, palms up, empty hands, displaying openness. We don't want to be closed off. We don't want to make it seem like we're hiding anything. We don't want to stare at anybody angrily, because everybody's trying to read what's going on with this person that's encountering their space. We want to have calm and steady voice, and we want to be relaxed, right? We want it to be a chill atmosphere if we're coming into a situation that is already escalated. We do not want to escalate things further. And our body language is part of that. Obviously, this is the nonverbal communication through our physical behaviors. And this is much of human communication. We can use the first part of the OODA loop in our observations related to body language, and we can get a lot of information very quickly. And the first part is to observe. What are we observing? Is this person standing up? Are they sitting down? Are they squatting? Does it seem like they're tense? Does it seem like they're relaxed? Are they crying? Right? What is going on? And that's all the information that we're getting very quickly to determine what our next step is. So not only are we wanting to develop awareness of body language within ourselves, but if we develop this within ourselves, we can learn what other people are going through. And it'll help us become more aware of the signals other people are communicating to us. And sometimes it's intentional. Sometimes it's not. Things like facial expressions, eye contact, gestures, posture, and personal space. All of these things kind of go into what's happening when two people interact, or if it's two groups or one person in a group of people. There's a lot of information being shared. Facial expressions, it's the most universal form of body language. We can learn a lot immediately about someone's facial expression. Eye contact, are people focused on us? Are they looking away? Why are they looking away? Why are they so focused on us? Different gestures like movements, hand waving, clapping, making fists, putting your hands in your pockets. And then posture. Are people relaxed or do they seem tense? Are they closing off? Are they stepping away? Are they facing towards you? Are they turning away from you? And then what's going on with the personal space? As we talked about before. Does it feel like they're invading your personal space, or does it feel like they're able to have a conversation that's an appropriate social distance? So we can use body language strategically. We can build trust, we can show confidence, and we can do all this to de-escalate. You want to kind of find the balance. You want to maintain an appropriate gaze, but not one that's too intense. You want to make sure that you're standing up or you're sitting up, however you are, letting that breath come into your body so you're full of oxygen, you're ready to make good decisions. And in doing so, you're going to change the atmosphere of whatever crisis you're entering. So looking at body language, tilting of the head forward, this often indicates active listening. Oh, I hear you. I do this often when I think that I can't understand somebody. You know, I'll try to get my ear as close as I can without invading that intimate space. So it's showing that I'm really trying to listen and picking up on information during the first part of this. Fidgeting or tapping may occur from somebody in crisis because they're just looking on how to release that energy. And sometimes it might look really awkward, but it's just something that they're doing to help process their stress level. But you can come into a situation sometimes with your hands on your hips, and it might make you look confident, but it also might be incredibly threatening to somebody else. It just really depends on how they're perceiving you. Obviously, if Superman's doing it, it's kind of got a positive connotation. But if Darth Vader does it, it's a little different. But it's the exact same. It's the exact same body posture. So here's some examples of people with hands on their hips. And it changes what it looks like simply because of their facial expression. So it ends up turning into this like math problem, right? A frown with a hand on a hip means something completely different than a smile with a hand on a hip. And in this example, I found this online, but this is literally the exact same picture. The only thing that's different is her face and the smile. And it's conveying two completely different messages. And these are the little things that you need to pick up on as you go through that first stage of the OODA loop and you're trying to assess where a person's at, how they're feeling. And nothing's across the board. You can't say, well, their hands were on their hips, so I thought they were feeling confident. Well, what did their face look like? It really all depends. So we need to have awareness of our gaze. One eyebrow raised it could come off as feeling stern, right? Great example from one of the best face actors of our generation. Eyes open wide, surprise or shock, right? A hard stare can be incredibly threatening. You probably don't want to be on the other side of that. And then if your eyes are closed longer than normal, it comes off as unengaged or if you're tired. And that can be incredibly insulting to people. So awareness in body language. It's a comforting smile. Finger pointing may seem threatening. Shoulder shrugging may seem uncaring. Rigid walking may seem unyielding. And if your jaw is set with clenched teeth, it shows aggression, both in yourself and the person that might be showing that to you. A natural smile is good. Thank you, Mike. And a fake smile, it can aggravate a situation. So quick movements may surprise or scare our counterpart in crisis as well. So we need to be mindful of these things to help create an atmosphere where we're able to communicate. So there's quick, unnatural, and repetitive body language, and it could be the result of many things. And you might encounter that if you're de-escalating a situation, and it might look something like this. But you still might have to get through to somebody. You might have to figure out a way to talk to them, or you might have to figure out a way for you to back out of a situation and call 911. It really all depends. So right now, go back and think about that time in your life that we talked about earlier, when you were involved in an argument or a debate and it got too escalated. Think about what we've discussed and then ask yourself the questions below. Was the environment safe? When it started, did it feel like that you should even be there? Did it feel like it was something that you should enter into? What social cues did you notice, either from yourself or from the other person? And then what social cues do you think you missed? So that's the end of our first part. If you have any questions related to that or anything you'd like to share in regards to, reflecting on how you went into a situation that was escalated, now's a good time to ask if you have anything. Okay? Hey, don't do that. Wait till the end. So, I just want to say I love these pictures, by the way. That's why I put them in here. I want to share them. I want people to see them. They were magical moments on Kirkwood, and I'm very thankful that I got to experience them. Part 2, verbal de-escalation, application of these methods. Hey, look at that. Remember, once again, if you are in a situation and it is beyond you, do not hesitate to call 911. Okay? Don't use this training as an opportunity to try to be a hero. Let the experts deal with the difficult situations. So, now we're going to talk about the behavioral change stairway model. And it's going to help us lead somebody to a change in behavior. And just like the OODA loop, we can change and adjust the steps based on the results and start over if we need to. If it's not going the direction we want to, we can abandon and go right back to the start. So you start with active listening. This is kind of the part of the OODA loop where you're gathering that information. And then you want to lead forward with empathy, right? You don't want to have judgment. You want to try to understand another person in crisis. By doing so, then you can build rapport, and you can start talking about whatever you want. Whatever they need to talk about, whatever you need to talk about, there's an exchange of information because trust is being built. And then once that trust is built, we'll be able to influence them out of that crisis. And then hopefully that will create a behavioral change. And this is another model that the law enforcement use to de-escalate situations. And this takes time to build over a learning relationship. But once again, at any time, if it goes wrong, start back over. Start back over with active listening and try to build up that empathy and rapport. So active listening within a conversation. Are you spending more time talking or listening? Are you spending more time listening or talking? Why are you doing that? Does it depend on the person? Does it depend on your mood? The power to assist in a crisis comes from information and the options that are provided with that information. Without a strong listening skill set, you won't have any power and the conversation won't be clear. So we want to create space to facilitate clear communication so we can learn what can be done to help someone dealing with an escalating crisis so that we can lead or influence their decision-making process. And that's where the behavioral stairway model comes in, because we're really just trying to get to know somebody until we can make a good decision to get everybody to calm down. We're building rapport, and we want our outcomes to be safe. So here's some threatening speech. And even in this, I have to remind myself who's who. It's been a while. But Ernie gets to the point where he points at Bert and he uses 2 fingers. And I've never seen anybody, except for a puppet, do that. So I've seen people point at other people, but I've never been like, I'm so mad at you that I'm going to do something uncomfortable. So when you're de-escalating a situation, we want to be in a non-threatening, non-challenging, and self-protecting position. And we want our speech to mimic our mindset, right? We want to have a calm mind. We don't want to be dealing with the fears of the situation, and we want to sound like we're doing the exact same thing. Now, we might have to fake it. We might have fears and insecurities that are coming in, and we have to end up just kind of talking through them. But we can't let them agitate the tone of our voice, because then that agitates the whole situation. So our tone, our volume, our rate of speech, our inflection, and the use of our voice become very important. But you have to find that middle ground sometimes. A low voice, it could seem like anger. And then a raised voice might seem uncertain. I don't know. That was an example. Felt like a puppet again, though. Speaking slowly is usually interpreted as soothing. So in an environment where there is a crisis happening, that could really help people out. And then a controlled voice is calm and steady, which promotes confidence in people. And when that confidence is being shared, trust is being built, rapport is being built, and then you're able to influence somebody into a safer situation. Changes in pitch are known as inflections. Be aware of the inflections in our voice. It can really determine our mood and the attitude that we might have internally that's being shared externally, and that can shape our environment. And there are 2 main types of inflections used in verbal de-escalation. There's an inquisitive inflection, and it's spoken with an upward sound. It's almost as if you're asking a question. Great example. Thank you, Ron. You can see it in his face. Another face. But by asking questions, it leaves it open. And when things are open, more information can be shared left and right within the conversation. A declarative inflection. This is when it changes. This is when boundaries are being set. This is when the leading and the influence is making sure that that person is maintaining the safety and the rapport that you're developing, as well as yourself, so you can get to the place where it's finalized. You want to speak with a downward sound, as if you're stating a fact or drawing a hard line. And there's no going over that line, and you need to understand that, and the person you're talking to needs to understand that. The declarative inflection should only be used to establish a boundary or convey a request within a crisis. This is the best boundary picture I could find. Some guy building a fence. They're not all winners, but we do our best. So remember the OODA loop. Observe, orient, decide, and act. Follow the loop and start over if the process doesn't feel safe or if it's going in the direction you feel like it should. You have the freedom, both with the behavioral stairway model and the OODA loop, If it feels like you're getting led down a place you don't want to go with an individual in crisis, then back on up and start again. Sometimes you might need to back on up and then kind of fade out. Maybe let somebody else do it, or maybe make that 911 phone call that I've told you about, depending on what's happening. You can use mirroring techniques with effective pauses. We want to have a conversation where information can be shared so we know what someone wants and what we can do to help them. We can copy another person's posture or gesture. We can get down to their level. When I was a camp counselor here at the city of Bloomington, it was like 20 years ago. Feels like it was a lot shorter than that, so I'm not actually doing the math, but I'm not getting any younger, am I? They taught us that if a kid is having a problem, we need to get down on a knee, look them in the eye, and make that connection. And by doing so, that kid feels safer, and there's more communication that's allowed to happen versus standing over somebody, towering over somebody. You might not see it as an adult, but as a kid or somebody who's sitting down, it looks incredibly menacing. Very, very similar to the hand on the hip thing, depending on your facial expression. So it is copying, but you're also meeting somebody where they're at. And sometimes it's not just based on gestures or tone or inflection, but it can be topics. There's people out on the street, and they know certain things and they have certain interests, and they might not be my interest, but maybe I can know a little bit about it to continue the conversation. But then there's, some people out there where, they want to talk about the Lord of the Rings, and I can keep up with that for a little bit. And then you realize they've read more than I have, and I get to the point where I'm like, that's very interesting, thank you. But mirrors also help us create space and learn more information in these conversations. Because I'm not meeting up with this person to talk about Lord of the Rings, but if we can share a common interest, then we can find out what resources they might need or what they need to kind of relax in a situation where they feel elevated. Be sure to add to the positive culture of the conversation. Don't imitate a person in crisis. That's not what I'm suggesting. Sarcasm, humor may unintentionally offend somebody and escalate the situation. Humor can do that even when you're not in crisis. You can have a joke that just doesn't land. You can be very careful when attempting humor. And you may also think someone is trying to be humorous, but you may find out quickly that they are not. And that has happened on the streets sometimes, with just things that people say. And in my mind, that sounds ridiculous. That has to be a joke, but it's a real situation they're going through. So I'm trying to figure out, how do I help you through this? How do I not laugh? How do I make sure that, I'm not showing that what I think you said is comical, but then I'm able to come back and process what was said. Keep in mind the potential difficulties when you're using humor. It works best when relationships are already established. So oftentimes in our line of work, the after-hours ambassadors and myself will use the OODA loop and we'll begin interacting with someone in crisis. We begin to use the behavior stairway model as well, and we'll ask somebody, do you need any help? And they may respond no, or leave me alone, or get the hell out of here, or I don't want to talk to you. And it immediately ends our conversation. How are we supposed to get through to somebody? How are we supposed to use these tools and tactics if they're all of a sudden just saying no and ending the conversation? So we have to keep in mind the way we ask questions. And we have to do so in a way that facilitates conversation. And this is where information can be shared. So we don't want to give them the opportunity to say no if we're able to ask the question in a way we can continue the conversation. Because if they say no and I keep pushing, then it's a situation where it's only going to get escalated more because I'm not respecting the boundary they established. But if we can talk using open-ended questions, it can take the aggression out of the instructions because they are subject to interpretation by the person in crisis instead of coming off as orders or requests. So examples of this, they cannot be answered with a simple yes or a no. They are open-ended. And they begin with what, how, who, when, and where. because they get people to share without having to think about a specific answer. So using a good open-ended question will let another person feel empowered to answer, which can lead to them opening up about their problems. And when they open up, you're building rapport. If you're building rapport, you're building trust. If trust is built, you can make suggestions and influence, and then you can de-escalate into a realm of safety. So open-ended questions require self-discipline and emotional restraint. We cannot help others without controlling our own emotions first, because we don't want to bring more chaos to the table. We do not want to escalate somebody with our own escalated thoughts, feelings, and communication. So a great question that works when you're in the middle of this, trying to build rapport, is what is the biggest problem we are facing to resolve this issue? It's not an I and a you thing. What are we doing? How can we there's so many times I'm downtown and I'll have to talk to somebody. And I'm literally like, what can we do about this? Because I don't want to be in this situation where you feel agitated, and I don't want you to be there either. So how can we work through this? And a lot of times those are the conversations, and that's the type of question where ideas are being generated. And then from those ideas, you can decide what will work and what's something you want to do, once again, to help somebody beyond an escalated situation. As it also lets you know exactly where they are in the moment, while helping them to understand that you're willing to connect with them. And that's what the rapport is. So once again, remember the OODA loop: observe, orient, decide, and act. This is your behavioral stairway model. And all of these notes should be in that trifold that you have. You want to remember your personal spacing too. Your theater style blocking. And if you go into a situation with these in your toolkit, you're going to be able to present yourself in a way that's safe for you, which allows you to connect with another person that is in a realm where they don't feel unsafe. But once again, if it is too unsafe for you, call the right people, call the experts, dial 911. All right. Any questions at this time? Everybody feeling good? Okay. We can take a 7-minute break. There are snacks outside, or we can keep going, depending on what you guys want to do.
Keep going.
Okay, great. Great. There's one in every class, isn't there? I'm kidding. Yeah. Takes one to know one, right? So, all right. We'll go through the last part then. Part 3, additional tools for verbal de-escalation. Once again, here is your behavioral stairway change model. Active listening, empathy, rapport, influence, leading up to the behavioral change that you're seeking. So we want to develop the right tools and skill sets, and one of these is cognitive empathy. And this refers to the extent to which we perceive or have evidence that we have successfully recognized someone else's thoughts and feelings. We want to bond with another individual through this level of awareness. We want to always be respectful to the person in crisis. We want to use please and thank you, Mr. or Mrs., once the pronouns are identified. You want to treat the person better than they expected to be treated. And sometimes that can catch people off guard. People that are surviving day by day don't normally expect that type of respect. And this may disrupt the raw intensity of emotions that drive their anger or fear within a crisis. Try to offer empathy and not sympathy. Sympathy implies pity, whereas empathy indicates rational understanding. We're not trying to look down on people, and we're not trying to make ourselves feel better for helping people in crisis. We're trying to get people to de-escalate so that safety occurs. So do your best to not display the feelings of shock if you come across somebody, or if they're cussing at you, or they say something absurd. Do not offer weak or common reassurances. Try to Give them realistic ideas and outcomes that can help them. Offer hope that alternatives are available, even if they feel like there is none. Try not to tell the subject or the person that you know that what they are going through. A lot of times that sounds really good, but when you're in a crisis and you hear that, it just feels like somebody is completely disconnected from what you're going through. There's no way for anyone to know that except for the person in crisis. And we don't want to buy people things, okay? Sometimes we feel that in our hearts as a way to de-escalate situations. As a parent, that happens. That happens at Target. It happens at Walmart, right? It happens so many places. And they put the candy right at the checkout. So moving on from that in my brain, think about the fact that you don't want to buy you don't want to buy something for someone. A lot of time people would ask for money, food, gas, clothes, coffee, tobacco. You don't want to open that door. That is a boundary you want to have set very firmly, especially if you think you might see this person again. In downtown, that happens all the time. And then it gets to the point where I see the same faces downtown and they know that I'm the guy that doesn't give out anything. And then they stop asking me. So then I can actually have real conversations with them and build that rapport. Oh, yeah, don't let anyone use your phone, car, or computer either. Some people might ask, and they might feel like, oh, this is a quick thing, I could help them out. But it kind of opens the door to more problems. So you want to verbally assess a crisis situation, you can use these steps. Verbalize the environment of the crisis you are de-escalating with the following. So speaking this out loud, and it'll help you understand what you're experiencing with a person in crisis. It seems like you're upset. It seems like you need to go talk to me in the shade. Seems like it's a hot day. It looks like you're bleeding. It looks like you're angry. It sounds like you're looking for different resources. And something like, it appears like you and I should sit down and have a conversation. It really depends. But saying what you're observing out loud can help that other person understand where you're at and then allow you to go through the behavioral stairway change model. Utilizing proper phrases is essential to initiating a response to a crisis. So sharing your assessments out loud, sometimes it's an easy tool to utilize, and it helps you also assess a crisis. Because sometimes people might disagree with you. You might say, it looks like you're bleeding. No, that's just ketchup from my lunch. Okay. But vocalizing moves your perspective of the situation from fearful response to one of rational thinking. Even if you're wrong in your assessment of a person in crisis, you can still gain valuable information. And an individual in crisis will almost always correct you and give you the information that you are seeking. So you can find out more information sometimes just by talking out your thoughts and then having somebody bounce them back to you, letting you know if they're positive or negative depending on the situation and what they're feeling. So you can use these I messages or statements. I feel blank when you blank because of blank. So you can enter a crisis and you can say, I feel uncomfortable when you yell because it makes me think you're going to hurt yourself. And that can be the type of line that opens up a conversation that gets a person to be more aware of themselves and to calm down. So an example of this, and I apologize if you've heard me tell this story before. Alex is over there laughing. I think he's heard it like 100 times. But it was February, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I was by the library, half an inch of snow on the ground. It was nighttime, and a gentleman walks around the library, and he's barefoot on his right foot, and he has a shoe on his left foot. And I go up to him, and I said, I feel concerned when you have only one shoe on because I have 2 shoes on. And I said, how did you lose your shoe? And the guy looked at me and he said, I didn't lose a shoe, I found a shoe. And he had started his day with no shoes. And I start all my days with both shoes, as far as I know. And I put that judgment on him. I thought, you must have lost a shoe. And the reality was, he ended up finding a shoe. Long story short, we connected him with Stride. We got him a pair of shoes, 2 of them, and it worked out in his favor. But it showed me something about how I approach people, what I think is common, what I think is normal. And I was shown that to some people it's not. And he was being also very optimistic. The glass was definitely half full. So. Action-oriented phrases, would it be ridiculous to, right? Would it be ridiculous for us to go somewhere else and not have this crisis in front of a business with 100 people walking in and out? Would that be ridiculous? Are you against going for a walk around the block as we talk about this? Is it a bad idea? Some examples, are you opposed to setting up a time to talk with a service provider? Do you see any reason why seeking resources wouldn't work for you? And can we talk about that? Or do you want to work together to try to solve this problem? That's basically saying, how can I help you? But it's more of a level playing field. It's not saying that I have the answers, but it's saying, what answers can we look for? What can we find together? Other examples, what would be the best outcome for you? How would you like for me to proceed so that I may help you? And how do we move forward from here in a way that's beneficial? It's to you, but to me and everybody else around you that's concerned about this crisis. So asking someone, do you need any help? And once again, they respond, no, leave me alone. Get out of here. What are some other ways to phrase this question to facilitate a good conversation and keep an individual from simply saying no? What do we think? What are some examples? Who has some ideas? Who does this every day? I'm not looking at you. Go ahead, Bill. Yeah. 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 And sometimes you develop that just from getting to know somebody. Yeah. 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 I talk a lot about the weather. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. How are you liking this heat? Yeah, Matt.
Um, one thing I felt fun, they really, losers, they are, they don't really want to help. They want to help. Once, I walked into a hospital room one time. Get out of my room!
Yes.
But in situations where, you know, I was like, hey, you could just go right back to that. It seems to me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 And you don't want to come into a space that immediately agitates somebody. But sometimes you have to do that when doing your job. Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else? Hey. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. 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 And then you're more present in the experiences that they're having versus like 2 weeks ago when they had a horrible day and I couldn't do nothing about, you know, because I wasn't there. Sorry. But yes, ma'am. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And just creating that space for somebody to talk a lot of times They're willing to share information. If they're reaching out to you, they want to talk about something. Yeah, 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 yep, yeah, yeah. I do that. Or I say, I'll see somebody new downtown, and I'll say, "How long have you been in Bloomington?" You know, and they always say, "Oh, I've been here for 25 years, right here in this spot." No, no, you haven't. I've been working here for 5. I've never seen you before. I wouldn't ask you that. But everybody knows more than me on the streets, and it's great. Sir. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Not here's the help you need, but yeah. Tell me more about your situation. Yeah, that's a good one. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Based on what you're already observing. All good examples. Thank you. So we want to be able to support people in a crisis, and we don't want to buy them things. We don't want to give them anything. We don't want to hand out money, food, gas, tobacco, coffee. It's okay to care about people, but we need to help them through their crisis. We're not trying to buy people off. We're not trying to call people down. Be kind, but don't give when you are de-escalating. It can lead to very confusing interactions between yourself and the person that is escalated. And sometimes they might be doing that to take advantage of you, right? They might be putting on a show so that somebody like you comes up and then they can ask for what they want. These are some things to avoid when you're entering an escalated situation. I think Alex came up with this because sometimes, we talk about OODA loops and behavior stairways. Well, there's things on the street that are the same way. They're hustles. There's things where the conversation's over, but if you keep it going, then somebody just gets escalated again. And it's really challenging to figure out when to end a conversation or how to end a conversation. I can't tell you how many conversations where they've ended, and I've literally just thrown the peace sign and walked away as somebody's continuing to try to talk to me, either because of the way their mental state is or what they want to say, or they might even be talking to themselves at that point. But it's hard to get out of, but you have to set that boundary and you have to move on, especially if they're de-escalated. Because if you continue it, something might pop up in their head that made them mad 6 years ago, and the next thing you know, they're upset and you're standing right there next to them. Don't leave an open opportunity to create discomfort or distortion within the lines of communication. People may try to take advantage of this situation. The more you converse, the more likely it is that the conversation will loop back and become escalated. So, anybody recognize this game? Okay, respect. Respect to all of you. Hey, okay. So my brother's had this. It's called pitfall. So I used the word pitfall, and then I found a video game slide about pitfalls. So that's the genius of this slide. So these are pitfalls to avoid. Avoid using blanket statements. Don't say, I know you struggle, or I understand what you're going through. Even if you do, it's not going to help the conversation. You want to find the right words to build that rapport and make that connection. And it's not blanket statements. We want to learn about their feelings. Try to ask questions to learn about their feelings instead of just trying to find that Band-Aid to put on top of it. You want to avoid the lecture landmine. It's the concept of unsuccessful individuals to tell while successful people ask. So ask questions. Learn about another person in crisis. And then use that information to help de-escalate them. The words I and you, that can create distance, right? I need you to leave. Whoa, that's pretty tense. How about we take a walk? Oh, yeah, let's go together. You're in this just as much as I am. Keep the conversation rooted in mutual benefit. Use words like us and we. Avoid ignoring or overlooking a person in crisis, right? You have the power to look somebody in the eye and say, no, I'm not giving anything out today. You have the power to look somebody in the eye that you think is going to ask for something and simply say, something that's not necessarily open-ended, but have a good one as you keep moving, right? You can show respect without getting caught into a situation. And sometimes that feels really good because then you're like, I'm not doing the thing where I'm walking by somebody acting like I don't see them, Yeah, even a quick how you're doing as you move on. If it's the how you're doing where it's just like saying hi, but not really trying to get information. Don't be a know-it-all when talking to anybody. Nobody likes that, even if you are in a crisis. Give people the chance to talk about their feelings and use that information to connect with them. Challenging postures that tend to threaten another person and escalate any situation. This could include face-to-face, nose-to-nose, toe-to-toe, eyeball to eyeball. Metaphorically, I hope. Touching, hand grabbing, hands on shoulders, making fists, crossing arms, hovering if they're sitting down. Alex one time told me a story. He was talking to an individual. They were sitting down. Alex had his back to the sun, and his shadow was on the individual, and that shadow agitated the individual to the point where the guy started cussing Alex out. And Alex came back and told me about it, and it was a very Peter Pan moment, It's like the shadow issue. I've never had that happen before. But now we think about it. We approach people, right, with the sun in front of us, depending on the individual. But that was a new one for me as well. Finger pointing. I mean, if you're going to do it, do it. It can definitely agitate people, even for 22 seconds. We want to avoid any unintentionally threatening actions and phrases. We do not want to touch a person in crisis. We don't want to be that close. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes they might come even afterwards and try to give you a hug, and you got to figure out how to navigate that. It all depends on the person. But sometimes you can be like, I don't do hugs, but I'll do a fist bump. Don't make aggressive hand gestures. Don't lecture on how things will get better. Don't make decisions for the person in crisis. And don't tell the person to behave differently. Once again, don't hand out any money. Don't give them anything. Just try to listen, connect with their feelings, build that rapport, and end up following either the OODA loop and the stairway model. So once again, go back to this time in your life when you observed a crisis, an argument or a debate, and it got a bit too escalated. Reflect on what we've discussed. So what were some of the signs that led to the situation becoming escalated? What do you wish you would have done differently? Realizing now what you may have done that escalated the situation. Don't forget the OODA loop. Observe, orient, decide, and act. What do you think's next? What's the next slide? Brian. It's a stairway model. Yep, look at that. Look at that, cutting corners. I am talking like Yoda. All right, don't forget your personal space, intimate, personal, and social, theater style blocking. But the main thing to remember from all this information, when dealing with a person in a major crisis, our greatest chance of de-escalating situations is to help a person in crisis by letting them vent, talk, explain their feelings, and make sure they're being listened to by a person who cares and is non-judgmental. And when you make that connection, then you can start to make suggestions to get people to calm down and promote safety. Any questions? Yes. Hi. All right.
What they say, that won't work, or I don't want to.
Yeah. if you're trying, if you ask them something and they say, I don't want that, and then you throw something else, I don't want that, and then you throw something, right? If that's the game they're playing, then you say, well, I'm not ready to have this conversation right now. I'm going to move on. I'll come back and talk to you about it later. Now, if it's a situation where they're escalated and they're yelling that, and you've stepped in and you've tried and it's not working, you might need to step out. If you're a caseworker or something, talk to a teammate. If not, that's a sign where you might need to call the police department and let them know that you tried to engage with them and it wasn't working and that it only escalated them further. You know, not necessarily that it was on you though.
A lot of this is about not really in that kind of crisis. Guys that they're just, oh, they're not all here, but they're doing okay.
Yeah, you could still do the same thing. You could do all this, you know, in a poker game and learn a lot about the people that you're surrounded around, even if nobody's de-escalated, nobody's escalated. So the same is true with somebody that, you know, that you might interact with daily, and you're getting to know them and you're learning about their feelings and you're building that rapport, but you don't have to lead them. You don't have to influence them because it's not escalated. But you can still build that rapport. And sometimes for some of these, you know, caseworkers and things, they're developing these relationships and then they're filing all this kind of in the back of their brain. So when there is something that's escalated, they're able to use that to make that connection even faster, especially with somebody that they know that they've worked with before. So hope that helps. Yes, sir, from the chamber.
Carl, thank you.
Yes.
Questions that got, well, one is you mentioned the strides.
Yes.
And one thing I've done, but I don't know, but it seems to be better.
Yes.
And then on third intervention, I, at least for my
Do you mean like if two people are having an argument?
yeah.
Oh, that's yes, yes. That's a tough one because it depends on your job and your role. If you're a police officer, that's something you need to step into, from my point of view. But if you're somebody and you're in a building and you know you're selling cheeseburgers, but two people start fighting outside, right? That could be something where you make that 911 call. Because at the same time, if you feel like it's going to get escalated, if you're not involving yourself in the de-escalation process and you feel like it's going to get escalated to the point where it is violent, then that's an opportunity to make a phone call. Mm-hmm. Like house calls, you mean, or what do you mean? Oh yeah. Oh well. Yeah, that can happen. But it's a situation where they, you know, it really depends. And like you said, you don't want to really get involved in something that you don't know all the pieces of. But at the same time, if you feel like it's a situation, you might need to make a phone call. So, yes. He's with the chamber. His name's Chris. Oh, the Stride Center. Well, the last part of this is in regards to resources. So we can talk more about that in a second. Yes, again. Based on my job, yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it seems like there was a lot going on in that situation. These tactics too, I think sometimes when we talk about people that are escalated downtown, it relates to business owners, college kids, and the unhoused, and that's who I'm used to working with. But there was a situation where I heard somebody cussing up a storm, and I walked over downtown to where it was, and it was a truck driver making a delivery for a restaurant, and all the stuff from his truck had fallen off, and he was just blowing up. He said he was volcanic. I'd never heard that before. But that was a situation where I de-escalated it using these tactics, but it was something where I didn't expect to be able or have a need to step in a situation like that. Yes, yes. And that's what they're trained to do, and they gave a lot of input into this training, and gave me some slides and things like that. Yes.
So when you're going this, and influence, how do you keep yourself calm, especially if it takes a long time, or you start to feel discomfort, but you have to be in that situation, responsible for that situation?
Yeah. So focusing on trainings like this and understanding how you need to show up to be the most effective. And if you feel like you're in a position where there is a crisis situation and you're not prepared to enter it, then you shouldn't enter it. And if you feel like you need to make a phone call, like I said, make that phone call, let the police handle it. But if you go in there with the wrong attitude, I was talking to the Bloomington Transit guys today, and they were talking about people on the bus. And if they start yelling in one of these situations and they're agitated, they've already lost, right? They've already created an environment that's worse. And the other thing is sometimes you can't tell who needs de-escalating after that, right? There's been situations where business owners have called on me and de-escalate a situation with an unhoused person, but when I show up there, I've had to de-escalate the business owner and the unhoused person. So, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Something like, it feels bad to think about it in that way, where it's like, I have a better situation, but.
Like, the lid on.
Right, exactly.
yeah. So let's talk about some resources in Bloomington. And if you're the type that wants to take pictures of these slides to get these numbers, feel free to do that. Obviously 911. Other emergencies such as blocked streets, broken water mains, aggressive animals, you can dial 339-1444. There's the non-emergency police line for noise complaints, barking dogs, the animal shelter, and the Safe and Civil City hotline, and that goes to our department, to the Safe and Civil City Director. Stride Center, we talked about this. There is their number. It is a compassionate alternative to emergency departments and jails. Anybody that's having mental health, substance use concerns, seeking housing, shelter resources, they need transport services. You're allowed to stay up to 23 hours at the Stride Center, and they do have laundry and shower services. So if you need to direct somebody to that location, they are across the street here at City Hall, and they're willing to help out as best they can. The Bloomington Police Department has mental health professionals at this number. I do not believe so. The BPD mental health professionals, the social workers. Stride is. Yep, 24/7, 365. The fire department has the mobile integrated health, and you can reach them at that number, the MIH team. And then the after hours ambassadors, this is our group number and our group email as well. And that includes myself, Alex, and Shaylin. Yeah, absolutely. So I do 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And then Shaylin and Alex, they do 9 to 5 on Tuesday and Wednesday. And then Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, they operate from 3 p.m. to 11 or 2 to 10, depending on that. So, yeah. And if you're having problems, you can let us know, and we can come by at any time during those hours. Great. If you would like to leave a survey, there's a QR code. You can do that thing. I had to figure out how to do all this. So. Thank you so much for your time. There's more information if you want to grab it on your way out. There's plenty of snacks. Take them all. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Okay.
Find out. Hang on. Okay.
So it's all.